So My Hero Academia has a lot of interesting characters, right? But not all of them are in the My Hero 1 Justice series. Hey everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today we're doing another episode of the How They Can Work series. In this series, we look at characters who are not in My Hero 1 Justice 2 and try to create movesets for them so hopefully one day they will become a playable character. So for this video, we're looking at the character Awase from Class 1B. And, you know, he has some very limited screen time, but I think I was able to create a really interesting moveset for him and his quirk. But before we begin, I just wanted to quickly warn that there will be some spoilers from the My Hero Academia manga, so I just wanted to warn you real quick just in case you didn't want to be spoiled. So with all that out of the way, let's begin the video. So Awase is from Class 1B, and his quirk is called Weld. And what Weld does is it allows him to connect things together by welding them, you know, sticking them together and attaching them together, and he can weld them together, you know, that's just how it works. He sticks two things together or two or more things and he can just weld them together. And I think that's a really cool quirk because it doesn't just work on non-living things, he can, you know, do it on living things as well. So we can attach things to pretty much anything, and I think that's a really cool quirk. But before we begin making a moveset for him, we gotta remember what's in a My Hero moveset. So each character usually has a normal attack, a red attack or an unblockable, a yellow attack or an armor attack, and then they usually have a quirk 1, a quirk 2, a side quirk 1, a side quirk 2, and a plus ultra level 1, 2, and 3. But in this series, we don't look at the normal attack because it's just usually the same thing. It's either a punch or a kick. And we don't look at a plus ultra level 3 because, you know, that's just 3 level 1s combined into one big attack. So we're only going to be looking at the interesting things for his moveset. So for his quirk 1, I have it labeled as Steel Equipment. And pretty much what this quirk does is it allows him to summon up these steel logs, and he can summon up to 7 of them, and he can fire the steel logs at the opponent. Then, you know, if it hits the opponent, the steel logs will kind of float around the opponent until all 7 connect with the opponent. And if all 7 do connect with the opponent, then it kind of welds them into a trap, and yeah, you can just follow up with the combo. So the reason why I made this a quirk is because Awase carries around these steel logs in his hero costume, and, you know, that allows him to like weld easier and stuff. And I think it would be pretty cool because, you know, it would make him a trap character, so you can, you know, do some setups kind of things, you know, try to plan around, you know, think about what the opponent's going to do and try to trap them. And it would be pretty balanced because even though it's got a far range, it's pretty slow, so you can still avoid it, so you would have to catch them off guard to use it. But the other thing you could do is use his side quirk 1, which is called Weldcraft. And the way this quirk can work is he can throw the steel logs faster but at a shorter range. But he uses all the logs you have saved up in one go. So if you only have 4, you would literally throw all 4 at them. You know, he would just throw everything that you have saved up. So if you have all 7 saved up and you're at a close range, you would throw all 7 and it would connect them into a trap. So it would kind of be like Mineta, except instead of lobbing, you know, you would throw the pipes. So, you know, the logs would go in like a straight line rather than you like throwing a ball. So that's how it could work. Just think about how like Mineta works, except, you know, it's different physics and the speeds are different. So that's how I came up with those quirks, and yeah. So for his quirk 2, I have it labeled as Armor Fusion. And just like his steel logs he carries around, he also carries around these like shields. And the way this quirk could work is he would put the shields on to make armor, just like how he does in the series. And for full armor, you would need to equip 3 shields. And he takes less damage depending on how many, you know, shields he has equipped to his body, but he becomes slower. Also, if the opponent wants to knock the armor off, the way the opponent would knock off the armor is by hitting them, so every hit would knock off a piece of the armor. And if they want to knock off all the pieces, then they would have to red attack. But pretty much what happens is he has armor on, and, you know, depending on how many shields he has equipped to his body, that's, you know, it makes him take less damage, but it makes him more slower, again, depending on how many pieces he has on. And to make full armor, you can only go up to 3, and if the opponent wants to do some more damage, they have to knock off the pieces of armor or red attack to knock all of them off. I think it's a pretty cool idea because in the series he makes armor with his shields, and it'd be a pretty cool way to get him to play up close rather than just keep playing him as a trap character. So I think it'd be pretty cool. It would allow him to play up close as well. So for side quirk 2, I have it labeled as Locking Arms, and this quirk came from, you know, the idea of it came from the Force Training arc when him and Yaoyorozu are running away from the Chainsaw Nomu, and, you know, he's carrying her to safety, while they're trying to flee. And I never noticed this until I rewatched the anime, but their arms are fused together. Like, he welded his arm with hers, and that's how he was carrying her. And I never noticed that until I rewatched it, and I thought that was super interesting, and I wanted to make that an attack. So the way it could work is he fuses his arms with the opponent's arms, or welds them together, and he kind of just drags them across the ground while running. The end of it, he would, launch the opponent into the air, which would be a combo finisher. You can't really follow up after it. So, it would do some good damage because, you can't follow up after it. And I think it'd be pretty cool because it'd be a reference to the time he escaped with Yaoyorozu in the Forest Training arc. And if you're in the air, he would do the same thing. He would fuse arms together or weld them together, and then he would kind of slam the opponent onto the ground before he starts running. So you can start it in the air, or you can do it on the ground. So for his red attack, I have it where he welds his arm together with the opponent's again, and instead of running and dragging them across the ground, he slams them, which causes a bounce. So that would be a good way to start off a combo. He kind of like does his red attack, it welds the arms together, and instead of running, he kind of just lifts them up, slams them onto the ground, and then it causes a bounce, so you can jump and start a combo. Or if you wait for them to fall with perfect timing, you can start a ground combo. So that's his red attack. And for his yellow attack, I have it where he hits the opponent with a steel pipe and puts them into the ground. So you can't combo off of it, but it would do a fair amount of damage. And this is another reference to the series where there was a time, I think during the Cultural Festival arc, where Monoma was kind of acting crazy, but Awase hits Monoma with a wooden, board and knocks, Monoma to the ground. But instead of a wooden board, he can use his like steel logs and fuse them together to make like a steel pipe and kind of like slam the opponent to the ground. I think it would be pretty interesting because it would be a reference to something, that happened for a second in the Cultural Festival arc. So I think that'd be pretty cool to see, and that is his red and yellow attack. So for his level 1, I have it where he kind of just welds his steel logs together to make a steel pipe, and he launches the opponent into the air after, hitting the opponent with his steel pipe. And this one is super simple, but I think it's still pretty cool. Like, the animation could be where he, welds the pieces together. That's the start of the animation. And then it just cuts to him swinging the pipe like a baseball bat and kind of just launching the opponent. Like, it's just something super simple, but it's still super cool to see. And I think it would work perfectly for his character. So for his level 2, I have it where, again, he starts by welding his steel logs together to make a steel pipe. Then the animation would go into kind of like him attacking the opponent over and over with the steel pipe until he knocks the opponent onto the ground. The opponent then would try to spring up and go for a punch, but the reason why he stopped attacking was because he's welding a bunch of shields to his body, so they would hit the shield instead, and then they would kind of go into a hurt animation, like they'd be looking at their hand, and then the camera would cut to them looking up at Awase with his steel logs floating around him, and he kind of throws his steel logs at the opponent, which makes the opponent slam into the wall and kind of welds them to the wall so they're trapped. Then the camera would cut to the opponent trying to escape the trap, and all of a sudden the camera would just cut to them just looking, helpless, and then they would look up and see Awase just charging at the opponent, the opponent that's trapped, with a full set of armor on, and he would kind of just ram into them, which would free them from the trap, but it would send them flying, and then they would slam into the ground, and the camera would just cut to Awase doing like a pose with him, like, winking with like a smile and a thumbs up. Just something that would be a really cool pose for him, and that would be the entire level 2 animation. I think it would be a pretty cool animation to see because, again, just imagine like the opponent just trying to escape the weld trap, and they can't, so they look super hopeless, and then all of a sudden they just look up and they see Awase just charging at them with a full set of armor on, and then he kind of just knocks them free because that's a full set of steel armor. That's gonna hurt, and they go flying into the air. I think it'd be pretty cool, a really cool animation for him. And again, it uses all of his tools like his steel logs, a steel pipe, his armor, the ability to weld something. I think it would be pretty cool because it uses everything he has, and I think it would be a pretty cool animation. So that is my moveset for Awase. Again, it was pretty tricky trying to come up with a moveset for him because he has very limited screen time in the anime and the manga, but I think I was able to come up with like a lot of things from a lot of different like parts of like the series to make a good moveset for him. Like, I pulled things from the Forest Training arc, I pulled things from the Cultural Festival arc, I pulled things from the Class Wave versus 1B manga arc. Like, there was like a lot of things I had to do research for to find a moveset for him, but I think I came up with a moveset I'm happy with, and I hope you guys enjoyed this moveset as well. I think Awase would be pretty cool to see come to the game because it's another Class 1B member, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of Class 1B members probably in the next game, or if they do another DLC pass because of Season 5, but either way, I hope he does make it into the game because I would love to see some more Class 1B members, and I think Awase would be a perfect fit. But yeah, if you guys want me to try to create a moveset for a certain character, let me know down in the comments below. I'd be happy to try to create a moveset for them. And yeah, but if you guys did enjoy, please like and subscribe. That would be amazing. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.